So Dylan, I'll start with you because I know you and I both watched it. What are your impressions about the actual revealing of these said details and then the actual details?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen this, essentially, their technical the architect for the PS5 and the PS4 on an hour-long live stream to talk about the details of this console. An hour long. That's no joke. It was an hour and it felt like 7 hours.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was really weird, right? Because we've been in such a drought for PS5 knowledge. Like a few months ago, we got the logo, which doesn't matter at all, right? And like since then, it's just been nothing. So I don't know. It's weird because obviously this was intended for GDC. GDC is more for the industry, right? Like a lot of the GDC talks will go up on YouTube later, but this was a live stream, right? And like it felt,
Yeah.
or at least the way they like I don't know, promoted it on their page, made it seem like it was going to be an event for PS5, right? So I don't know. The expectation is just way off for like what this presentation was, which was just a very dry cut to the like I don't know, very in depth of like here's each like every last teraflop of the PS5 and what it can do. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just way too dry and way too long. Like if you haven't watched it, don't go watch it. Just go read like a recap online from IGN or whoever because that's all the information you need. And like I don't know, it's weird because it's obviously not intended for me. It's not intended for like the consumers. It's intended for developers. Yet it was live streamed to everyone. So I get it, right? Like they're like, okay, well, we had this talk. No one's going to see it. Let's put it up on YouTube instead for everyone. But it just didn't seem like the right thing to do, especially when Xbox has been killing it. Like
Mm-hmm.
every couple weeks, it seems like they have another drop of here's more information. Even on like Monday last week, like a couple days before the PS5 event, Xbox dropped some more information about their console that was all really concise and good news. So it just like I don't know. I feel like PS. I don't know. It almost feels like they're regressing to what they almost like their PS3 like situation where it was just kind of scary in terms of like how they were going about this console and there was all these fumbles that they had. In terms of the actual information, like at the end of the day and like the tech breakdown, it all looks great to me. Like it's a super powerful console and there's some really good stuff in there. Like um, one thing he was talking about was like how long it'll take developers to uh, learn how to use this console and like use it correctly. And it's like a really short. I don't know the terms. Sorry, excuse me for that. But it sounds like that's a really good sign because developers will get this tech and like get into making their game as soon as they possibly can and make use of all of the power that's in there. In terms of the actual power of the PS5, it's weaker than the Xbox Series X, but only in some ways. Like in terms of just like raw power, it's a little bit less. But in turn, like I don't know, I've done some research online and heard some other people who actually know what a lot of this technical stuff means, and they're saying that's like it's going to be significantly faster, whether that's load times or just like environments and like how many details you can load in, like how quickly you can do that and stuff. And it sounds like that is just going to blow Xbox out of the water. So that's kind of what I prefer more. Like I'd rather take less load times and better frame rates than I don't know, like just raw like power necessarily. So for me, it all is good on paper, but the presentation itself was oh god, I yeah. Travis said at the top that it's like really good to fall asleep to, and if you're ever struggling to fall asleep some night, just put on that stream and Mark Cerny will
Mm-hmm.
sing you a lullaby for sure.
Yeah, so I think Dylan touched upon. I think the key thing with this one is like messaging or marketing. And it's the same way, like we always talk about our podcast. I never say like, "Oh, you're gonna get the most fact-based, serious, like really in-depth." No, we always say, "Hey, we're a bunch of friends talking, hanging out, and we're gonna." Do as most knowledge we can and have a good time, and that's how we always promote the podcast. And I feel like with this, they from the beginning should have been like, oh, this is something for developers. You can watch it, but it's going to be very technical and very inside baseball and things like that. And I think them just even calling it like the road to PS5. One, I just felt it was weird to drop it because I get it. You don't want to stop everything right in the middle of all this stuff going on, but it just felt like that was like one of the days where so much COVID-19 stuff was really popping off and was getting really scary. And they're just like, oh, and here's the PS5. I think this, you could have done that. Oh, this is a very techy talking video, or I think you could have done what Xbox did and just release a blog post, release something. I don't think it needed to be a video. So I think the messaging and marketing was all off for this. It felt like it was going to be more of a event. I wasn't expecting a huge thing, more event. The actual just performance or the conference, two things. One, Mark Cerny, it's great. He's a genius of a guy. He's created, great consoles that have sold millions and millions and billions of dollars, right? But one, I don't think him being on stage talking was a good call for that long, at least, because it was you need somebody to either be a bit more energetic, charismatic, or even just come down and break it down in English. It's almost like it should have been a two-manner where he gives the really technical stuff, and then there's someone to be like, oh, okay, so what he actually means, or like, this is what he means, or even then, just something to cut it down. I think this would have been better as just like even his narration over a video of quick cuts, like a kind of like a Nintendo Direct, something like that. I know they've been playing with that, but something in that realm. It made them look very out of touch with the CGI crowd. That was the second I saw that, I went, oof. It just, because I don't even know why. Everyone knows what's going on. Everyone knows you're not supposed to be in a room like more than 10 people. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with Mark Cerny just being this. So it's just like seeing this guy like adjust his watch like every 12 minutes in a loop was like, this is annoying and this seems out of touch. And that's my biggest thing is like, I'm not worried. I think that's a big thing for me. I'll always put a disclaimer in the same way as Taylor that I will always buy PlayStation from now on because of their exclusives. With back in the 360 era, I didn't have anything really pulling me one way or the other. 360 was cheaper. All my friends had it, so it was great. And that's when I was playing a lot more games that were just cross-platform. Nowadays, I am, in the little time I get to play games, I'm about exclusives. So like The Last of Us coming up, Spider-Man, Horizon. So you can take whatever I say as like a biased standpoint, but I think this is it's not a marathon the way I describe it. It's like a boxing round. If you don't know, or like a boxing, if you don't know boxing, they have rounds and they go like 3 minutes, and it's always based about like, oh, how many hits, where you get hit, and if you fell down, you're losing some points, stuff like that. And like this is going into a new fight, and Sony for like 8 years has won every fight against Xbox. So it's like Xbox started the round like a few months ago by here's some specs, here's some messaging, backwards compatibility, smart delivery, all this great stuff. So the match started and they're like peppering with some shots. And then when Sony blocked a couple, it was their turn. They swung and they completely missed. And then Xbox hit them with one more. That was the like, oh, we're still coming out November 20th or what, like 2020. So this is the thing. I think if for some reason the boxing match stopped right now and it was like there was a fire and you had to leave, Xbox for sure has won round one, and I think as far as just the messaging and the specs reveal, they've won that. Even though, like Dylan said, there's things like they've said the speed's really good. The other thing they were talking about was like patches for games, because lots of times with patches nowadays they take so long because they got to actual copy the game format. Where now they're making it so patches is just a patch alone, so it's going to be much quicker. So there was some great stuff in there. I just think they didn't break it down well, and that's my kind of feeling. Is it is a boxing match? It's just that they won the round one. I think Sony wasn't expecting it, and yeah, Dylan kind of insinuated that earlier. It's just that's my worry of going in. I will get this, even like price. I think they're going to be both pretty comparable. I think now they got to make sure they got a killer reveal when they come out, and then I also think price point does have to be on par or lower than Xbox. It's tough because they're having like a blinking competition, but I think Xbox kind of won this round. But that's the thing. There's many rounds to go. There's the big reveal for both of them. There's the marketing up to that. There's all these things, but the biggest thing I'll say before I hand off to Taylor Kirklin is, or my last point is just they feel like they're a bit on the back foot, and that's exactly what Xbox was after that Xbox One reveal, where they revealed all this stuff, and then Sony got to come out and be like, oh, well, here's our stuff, and everyone's like, this is great, and then Xbox had to be like, oh, well, we can do that, or we're going to take away the Wi-Fi connection, blah, blah, and that's where already, like, this backwards compatibility, it's been kind of confusing. Some people saying, like, oh, there's a few games that launch, no, there's many games that launch, oh, you could do a bunch of eras, no, it's just going to be a PS4. It's also similar to the Avengers game, where it's just like, okay, what is the message, what is happening? So that's my worry, is that they even if they don't have a plan, you got to make it feel like you have a plan, and they're not doing it. Xbox is doing that. Now, do I think this wins them the war? I actually don't. I think the only thing that would hurt them is a Xbox One style conference where they come out and let's say the Xbox One is even 500 and they go, it's 600, it's 650, and it's like some stupid thing like, oh, you gotta be connected to Wi-Fi. I think they have so much good grace that they're pretty safe, and I think most mainstream people aren't going to pay attention to this. I think the name of PlayStation and the games, just stuff even like Spider-Man and God of War, will make people be like, I'm going to get a PS4 for this reason. So in the long run, I don't think it's going to hurt them. I don't think it's going to make them lose too many sales, but I think for just momentum wise, it didn't do a good thing.
Yeah, I think you made actually a great suggestion. If they had two people up there,
Mm-hmm.
like you would have a quick like 10-15 minute thing with like whoever, like Sean Layden's gone now, obviously, but whoever is like stepping into those shoes or someone like that who's really good at the stage presence and stuff like that, have them up there for 10-15 minutes to share like the big stuff. Like, here is the solid state drive. This is what it means very quickly.
Yeah.
And then like after 10-15 minutes, hand it over to Mark Cerny and say, hey, he's going to break it down, like all this means in detail. And then maybe they should have thrown like, here's what it looks like, right? Like
They
maybe they
should
should have
have.
thrown that in there just for the fanboys. Just it's like, here's what it looks like. Here's what's inside. Here's Mark Cerny talking about it for 45 minutes, and I don't know. Maybe that would have helped them out possibly. But
Taylor
Kirkland.
Taylor
Yeah.
Kirkland, yeah.
I see. Yeah, I don't know. Like hearing like new console specs and stuff, I don't really get like all jittery like on anticipation of hearing them. It's pretty much like I know it's gonna be better than the last console. I know it's gonna be fast. I know it's gonna be all these
Yeah.
things. I know load times are gonna be faster. So or like that's just what you'd expect, right?
Yeah, if they're not, it's like,
So-
what have you been doing for the past
Yeah,
5 years?
yeah, exactly. So just hearing your guys' takes, it sounds like the whole reveal of it could have been handled a lot better. I've definitely seen, not necessarily a conference, but just like a reveal for something of them just being too much on the engineering side of things and like not like dummying it down for just, I don't know, the average
Yeah.
guy that just wants to
Yeah,
know
for sure.
if my PlayStation or if my Spider-Man file is going to load quickly or not, right? Just so I don't know. I guess I would agree with what you guys said, just from having no knowledge of actually seeing it. I will definitely avoid the conference. I feel like I have absolutely no reason to watch it. Yeah, it's just hearing like a reveal like that. It's definitely nothing that I would be like, oh, I'm probably gonna hesitate on the PlayStation buy, or I'm gonna think about getting an Xbox One. You know, it's just I'm not that type of person that gets super jived up on specs like that.
That's fair.
What about you, Taylor?
For me, like I definitely like I have an interest in like the power and the performance of these consoles. I think it plays a factor into any new piece of technology for sure. But in this sense, like I definitely can understand like a lot of what you're saying, Dylan, about how like the PlayStation definitely surpasses Xbox in certain like aspects technologically wise, and it's unfortunate because the Xbox and like Microsoft has flaunted what they have and what they are more powerful on in their aspects over the PlayStation, and to me they've done a good job advertising that. And whereas you have Sony that's come out and revealed their specs, but again, like there's a lot of people like Kirkland that don't follow the details of what the performance capabilities of these consoles are. And now you have a very poor performance and revealing show of what the PS5 can do. And everyone, even though like maybe even though the PS5 is more powerful in many aspects compared to the Xbox Series X, people aren't going to believe that because everyone is now just defaulting to the Xbox, saying, "Oh, it's good, better power, all this mumbo jumbo, blah 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 blah." And now to me, that's just like it's hit and slam Sony like really really hard in the sense like they need to get back on the right track. If they are more powerful and they have all these like one-ups against Xbox, they need to market themselves properly. They need to take advantage of that and showcase what their console can properly do. Because if they just roll out like, okay, yeah, our console can do like faster speed rates, loading times, all this stuff, and roll out these great games, that'll be good. But this needs to start sooner than later. And the more that they keep procrastinating and not putting out their information, it's going to get harder and harder and harder. And now that you throw out like a massive serious pandemic onto their hands and a delay possibly of the console release, it's just going to create more risks, for themselves. And granted, it gives them more time to promote. That's all, fair enough. But then they don't exactly know what Xbox is doing. Like, this is something I said a while ago. Like, if Sony decides to delay their console release, but Xbox goes ahead and pushes it out, or vice versa, this could really affect this whole console release between the two companies, and it could either devastate or lead to a huge success for either or both consoles. Like, it's hard to say at this point. So I think, Xbox, they bit the bullet. They released how their console looks and everything. And to be honest, I don't see anyone making jokes about how it looks anymore. People are just they've gotten over that hump, and now people are just talking about what the Xbox One can do. there was a little bit of a hump the other day where they talked about how uh, a little confusion about whether the Xbox Series X will be able to play all these Xbox One games, and people were confused, like, oh, is it going to be able to play all of them? But it's just like, okay, no, the console will play like thousands of Xbox One titles, but not all of them, meaning like not all like the Kinect titles and stuff. But like this is information, like they keep revealing new things that are getting people excited, and I get that this is like the first main thing that we've had from PlayStation, and again, like a conference that they did, as boring as it was, it's more customized towards like devs out there so that they know what they're working with, I guess, if they're going to work on any future projects for the company or for the console and such, which is good. But again, it's just they need to start rolling out information to build up excitement and build up hype, because people right now, are they excited about the console, or are people excited about just the exclusives and they're just getting the console because of the exclusives? I think you should be able to be excited about a console. And like I'm super stoked for Xbox, the new Xbox. I mean, granted, like I'm not huge on what its capabilities are, but I do invest a little bit of my time to study up on what they can do, because I think that's important. But at the end of the day, like you said, Kirkland, I'm going to get the new console because hopefully it is more powerful than the current one I'm playing, and I'll slap a game in there and I'll just play it, till 3 a.m.
Yeah, those are all good points, and like you bring up a good point too. Like I'm just curious what like PlayStation or Sony rather's like plan has been, or what they were planning on rolling out. Obviously, COVID throws a wrench in everyone's plans, and nothing really they can do about that. But like it's weird for Sony because it's hard to say if they've been holding off on a lot of this information because they have like some huge exclusives coming out this year, like Ghosts is decent, but then like Last of Us 2 and Final Fantasy 7 are going to be massive games, right? So obviously they do want to have that focus on those games still. And is that why they're holding off on so much stuff, right? Is because they want those games to come out and then start supporting it huge. But then it feels like, well, if you're coming out on holiday, like that's not a lot of time to promote it and make it a known thing, especially without E3 having the presence, or well, this year is not going to happen at all. So it's super weird, and it makes sense why Xbox is trying to get the head start on them. And I'm just super curious when the next Sony thing is going to be, right? Because it's always been these massive gaps between information. Like we got those Wired articles like a year ago that honestly had some of this information in there, not the exact specs, but saying like, hey, it's going to have a solid state drives, and it's going to have solid state drive. Load times are going to be super low. So we already kind of knew some of this stuff like a year ago. Now, obviously, there is more details that was in this announcement, but yeah, you just got to wonder what their overall game plan is, and if it is just like get these exclusives out and then focus on it, or I mean, I feel like they should be doing it right now, right? Like they need to match Xbox right now. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting the next little while to see what they do, because like we all said, all the plans are kind of thrown off a bit, right? So it's who knows if they even release. Xbox came out, there was some back and forth of if it was Thanksgiving or now it's saying fall, but either way, they're still advertising fall 2020. But at the end of the day, that could be a crapshoot, right? They're just advertising that for now. So, and like Taylor said, I would love to see, not love because I just want to get consoles and I don't want them to delay it because people are out of work, stuff like that. I would just love a console generation where if one did launch before the other, what that would look like. But again, even then, I've always said, and I still feel the same way, I don't know if Xbox is, I'm sure they would love to outsell the PS5, but I don't think that's their goal. I think their goal is just to create a system that would get additional people onto it. I think they're trying to be like a really solid number 2, and I don't think they're going for number 1. I could be wrong, but I just still don't get that vibe. This week was the most I got that vibe, actually, so maybe once we get closer it'll change, but lately it is, or like the lead up has just felt like, okay, they're just kind of hanging out. They want to get any sales they can, and they're more about their features or their services, right? So
yeah, I mean, for Sony PlayStation, as Taylor said, it's all about those exclusives, right? When we see Spider-Man 2 and we see like how beautiful this game is, or like they display like a load time where you teleport across the city in like half a second, like that's where people will start popping off.